creator here at the Eclectic Cottage in Spokane, Washington. For today's video, I grabbed several items out of my stash and gave them all some simple spring makeovers to get them ready to go out into my spring displays. I love how they all turned out. I can't wait to show them to you. And without further ado, let's get to those projects. My first project is this adorable little ceramic rabbit that has been in my stash for quite some time. I figured with Easter kind of around the corner, a rabbit might be a good thing to add to one of my displays. This thing had been spray painted by somebody in this really bright white color. And so I am going over it with two good even coats of DIY's Crinoline, which is this beautiful off-white neutral that I absolutely love. And I am pouncing or stippling this paint on just to make sure that I don't have a bunch of brushstroke marks on this rabbit. I would rather it have kind of a textured appearance than have brushstroke marks. Once my paint was completely dry, it was time to seal. Now, DIY paint can be reactivated with water, so it's very important that you always seal your paint once you're done. For this, I'm using DIY's clear wax. I'm just going over the entire piece, applying a thin layer with my soft bristle brush, and then wiping back very carefully any excess that I've left on the piece with a dry shop towel. Just make sure to work that wax down into all the little grooves on this piece. And then again, just very gently wiping back the excess. You don't want to rub too hard. This is ceramic and you can rub your paint right back off of the piece if you're not super careful. Once I was finished with the clear wax, I decided to go ahead and go over the rabbit with some dark wax just to bring out more of the detail in this piece and to give it a little bit of an aged look. So I like to use a little bit of mineral spirits when I do my dark waxing. It helps thin out the wax a little bit and makes it a lot easier to move around on your piece and a little less gunky in a lot of the detailed areas. So again, just applying this time with a small little brush and wiping back any excess with a dry shop towel as I go, same as the clear wax. And I absolutely love the look of this rabbit now that it's finished. My second project are these two cute little wood candle holders. I thought this was going to be such an easy makeover, just paint and wax and be done. But no, I had washed these and for some reason the whatever finish was on them kind of turned a weird white color. And then when I painted them, the first coat of crinoline, they turned pink. It was really weird. It was kind of this bizarre pinkish red color that had kind of bled through. And I ended up having to coat these with 2 coats of shellac just so that I could paint them without having that weird reddish pink color bleed through my paint. So these definitely took me a little bit longer and a little bit more time than I had planned, but I really like how they ended up coming out. Now, I did want to distress these guys, and wet distressing was just not going to happen with that shellac and all of that pink underneath. So I grabbed some 220 grit sandpaper and just used that to do a little bit of distressing. I couldn't do nearly as much as I had wanted to originally, just because that pink undercoat. So once I was finished with the distressing, it was time to seal these guys, and I am doing the exact same thing here that I did with the bunny, just 1 coat of clear wax. And then I will be following this up with some dark wax, and then these guys will be finished. They definitely took me a lot more time than I'd planned, but I absolutely love how they came out. Project 2 is this really pretty resin cross that I've had again in my stash for a long time. And let me tell you, this has not been the easiest piece to try and store because it's heavy and awkward. And so I'm really glad to honestly have it out of my stash. And I figured since Easter's coming, a cross would be very appropriate to have in my display. So I am painting this with 2 coats of DIY's color called Skeleton Key. I almost forget about Skeleton Key, but it is such a pretty, pretty color. It's kind of blue, has a little bit of gray to it. In some cases, it can almost look a little green. It really depends on the color you're putting it on. I just really love it. It's a beautiful color. Once I had my 2 coats of paint on and it was completely dry, again, it's time to seal my paint. And for this, I am doing a coat of clear wax first. And then I am going to be going over this one with white wax. And normally when I do my white wax, I don't clear wax a piece first, but there was so much deep detail in this, and I really didn't want the white wax to be too thick or gunky in any place. So I used that clear wax as a bit of a barrier to help me be able to move that white wax around a little bit easier so that I didn't have too thick of an application in any one place. So again, just kind of pushing it down into all of the detail, very carefully wiping back any excess. Since this is a very slick surface, too much rubbing would rub my paint right off of the piece. And I really didn't want any distressing on this. I did end up with a few little white places poking through though. So I decided to cover those up. I would go over this with some gold gilding wax. So I'm using Redesign with Prima's Decor wax. This color is called Eternal, and adding just a hint of this beautiful gold to this cross, just with my finger, going over all of the detail very gently and lightly, just add a little bit of sparkle, and again, cover up any white that might be poking through the paint. I absolutely love how this cross came out, and I hope you guys do too. For project 4, I grabbed this little wire bird that I've had in my stash for a while. This thing had that large scale potpourri in it when I bought it. Didn't really smell like much, and so I threw that all away. And I began painting this. I'm using DIY's Farm Fresh. Now, you guys, hindsight's 2020, and in all seriousness, as much as I love my DIY paint, and it did a really good job on this bird, it would have been so much easier and saved myself about 2 hours had I just gone and bought a can of spray paint. However, I went ahead and gave this guy 2 coats of DIY's paint, and I did seal it with a spray matte sealer by Rustoleum. Now, I do have plans to put something in this for Easter to add to my displays, but that will be in my next video. About a year ago, I noticed Hobby Lobby was starting to kind of increase their prices on things, and they had their clay pots on for half off, and I grabbed a whole ton of them. They've been sitting under my kitchen sink ever since. So I grabbed these 2 little ones out of my stash and decided to add them into today's video. I am going over both of these with 2 coats of DIY's color Faded Burlap, which is again another beautiful neutral color, kind of a beigey, creamy, brownish gray color. And I absolutely love this. I was very careful to make sure that all of my brush strokes kind of went in that circular motion around the pots, just so that when I waxed these, the wax would catch all of the little brush stroke marks. Now, in the interest of still trying to use up some of the things I have laying around in my kitchen, I grabbed this transfer set that I've had for a while. This one's called Mystic Hydrangea. It's by Redesign with Prima. And I cut out two lilacs that were in this set. There's also a bunch of obviously beautiful hydrangeas, hence the name. And I just began applying this transfer to the first pot, and I find that with these curved edges, sometimes it's easiest to lay down one portion of the transfer, work that into the paint with the transfer stick, and then just slowly work your way across, laying the transfer down as you go, and then peeling up that piece of vellum. Once I had the first pot done, I cut out some pieces of greenery and the other piece of lilac and began placing those onto that second pot, just kind of making sure I had them where I wanted them before placing them down. And then again, just carefully laying each piece of transfer down, pushing it down into the paint with my fingers to get it started, and then using that transfer stick to apply the transfer while peeling back that piece of vellum very carefully. You just want to go slow and watch and make sure that if you lift any of the pieces of transfer with the vellum, that you lay it back down immediately and reapply that portion. Once I had my transfers all finished, it was time to seal my paint, and I am using wax again for these. If you're wondering why I use a lot of wax on my pieces, it's mainly because I really like the matte finish that the wax gives as opposed to some of the shinier, glossier finishes. And for this one, I am going over it with a layer of dark wax as well. I did thin it out with mineral spirits, but it still was kind of dark and streaky in a couple places. So I just grabbed my brush with a little bit of clear wax on it and used that almost like an eraser in those areas. And it helped lighten up that dark wax and just remove the streakiness. And again, just wiping back the excess. You can see there the difference in the pots. I love the look of the dark wax on these. And then onto the second pot, same procedure. Clear wax first, then the dark wax thinned out with a little bit of mineral spirits, wipe back the excess, and then again I used a little bit of clear wax to go over a couple of the darker, streakier areas. Now I do intend on filling these with some florals, but that will be in my next video, so stay tuned for that. My sixth and final project is this cute little metal chest that I picked up just recently on my junk run with my husband. And for this one, I decided to go a little bit different route than I normally do with metal pieces. I'm sure if you guys have followed me for a while, you've seen me make over these by taking them out and spray painting them a solid color, going over them with another color, and then distressing back. For this one, I decided to do a dry brush over the detail rather than do any distressing, just to try something different. I saw another creator do this just not too long ago in one of her videos, and I thought, distressing is great and all, but I know some of you really would like to see something else. And so I decided to try this instead. So I am going over this with this gorgeous, gorgeous color by DIY. This is Farm Fresh one of my favorites, and just giving this 2 good coats of that Farm Fresh paint, letting it dry thoroughly before I move on to my next step of dry brushing. Now I am dry brushing on Crinoline. I am using a chip brush. I did go over these pretty heavily. You don't need to go over them this heavy. I just really wanted some good color on all of that raised detail. And so to dry brush, you just dip your brush into the paint and then wipe almost all of that paint right back off onto a towel, or in my case, a shop towel. And then very gently, just kind of in a wispy motion, go over your detail so that some of that paint is applied. Turns out really, really cute and is a great alternative to distressing. Then again, time to seal my paint, and you guessed it, I'm using wax again. This time I'm going over it with a coat of clear wax first, and then I decided to keep this light and kind of springy. I would just go over it with a coat of white wax. Same procedure, brush the wax on, wipe back any excess with a dry towel, and then your piece is finished. I absolutely love how this little chest came out, and this is definitely a technique I will try to do more of in the future. Well, I think that's it from here for today, you guys. I hope you liked my projects and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up. I so appreciate that. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and then just hit that little notification bell so you don't miss anything. And then don't forget to comment below and let me know which of the projects in today's video your favorite was. Also, as a reminder, all of the products you saw me use in today's video can be purchased through me at my website, and that's www.theeclecticcottagespokane.com. It's listed below in the description box. And I carry the full line of DIY paint products, as well as Sweet Pickins milk paint, Recycled Treasures decoupage papers, and some Redesign with Prima products on there. So please go check that out. For Tuesday, I am planning on another small thrift flip. I have a couple projects that I didn't quite get into this video that are almost done. And I want to finish up the little wire bird and the 2 pots with some decor for more Easter spring type displays. So those will probably be in there. I am going on a junk run on Sunday, so there might be some thrift treasures to show you. We'll see. And my husband and I are finally getting the wall finished on Saturday. We've had so many things come up that have had to be addressed before we could get it done. So hopefully we will finally get my display wall built and up in here on Saturday. So you might see some footage of that. We'll see. Anyway, I hope you'll join me for Tuesday's video. It should be fun no matter what. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and thank you so much for being here. I will see you on Tuesday. Bye.